Welcome to the Soul of Medicine.
Hi, nice to see you again.
So nice to see you.
You too. So, what's been happening since the last time you were on podcast? So that was really great. You had some good feedback on that podcast, and so you've shifted a few things in your life, opened up a new studio. Could you tell us a bit about what's going on now?
Yeah, sure. So it's been an exciting adventure. I moved to the country, Santa Ynez, California, which is about 30 minutes north of Santa Barbara, and opened a healing arts studio. I'll give you in the studio right now. It's just a tiny little space in downtown cowboy country, lots of horses and just open space, nature. It's also wine country. So there's vineyards and just an idyllic place to visit, to be, and for me right now to live. And it really brings in a lot of the practices that I value, which are nature, are allowing our nervous system to regulate and relax, which is something I did not really have the luxury of too much in Orange County. I mean, yeah, there's practices that you can do daily to help regulate, but when you're also daily dealing with a few hours of traffic, uh, lots of different personalities, strangers, things that will naturally bring us on high alert, it's hard to really allow ourselves to come to that place of wholeness. And that is one of my favorite definitions of healing, is a return to wholeness. And so that's part of where I named the studio HAUS, and it stands for HAUS, Healing Arts Studio. And the U is for you.
Awesome. That's so cute. So tell us some of your class offerings and who you have on staff and what kinds of healers you have. I'm going to turn my camera off just real quick while you're talking.
So why I called it healing arts is I don't believe the world necessarily needs another yoga studio the way that we look at yoga studios in our culture today. And it's not that there isn't anything wrong with a good sweaty vinyasa dance class. I love them too. Yet I also believe in the fundamentals of alignment, anatomy. My specialty is more of the breath work, the writing, the energetics. And so that's what we offer on the weekly schedule, is not only yoga, yet also the breath work, the writing. We have a brilliant artist. That's actually what I refer to the teachers as, artists. And she is also a somatic experiencing therapist, and she's bringing in different modalities. We have an artist named Ace, who's also an equestrian. And so we have a class that's called equestrian conditioning, because that's a huge part of the lifestyle up here. And why not offer practices that really help people do life?
That's really cool. So, I mean, I think the shift toward that, or let me just say back to the essentials of yoga. I mean, I have been in that industry for almost 30 years. And to be honest, I stopped getting on my mat several years ago. I stopped teaching several years ago. I kind of got disillusioned with the yoga, like with the teachings, with the practice itself, with kind of the industry of the goats, the puppies. Well, I don't mind puppy yoga, but the bear, all the things. And I remember coming to yoga initially for the Shavasana. And I mean, over the 30 years, I think I rarely got to that very first class in that feeling that I had in the Shavasana, which was very grounding. It was very still. That's what made me fall in love with it in the first place. And then you kind of get on this thing of like, oh, I want to be a teacher and go to trainings and I did all the things, practiced all over the world, and it just didn't become it. I think I lost the real yoga piece to it. And so this was interesting. Like, just recently I've been having a lot of this back pain and pelvic floor stuff. So, I was like, I need to get back into my yoga. I haven't been on my mat. Well, I just popped on the floor. I don't need a mat anymore. I could do it anywhere. You remember back in the day when we go to training and big black Manduka mats was like airplane now. Like, you just like, I'll do it on a towel. Yeah, there's one right there that I actually have one on the floor. But
And that's how it should be, is making it accessible. Being able to pick it up and do it.
yeah, and I think it's like, what's the just yoga? Because to me, so I got on the floor and I had not done down dog in like years, right? Because I've been practicing a lot of Pilates, which I love, but I felt like some of my body was just getting really immobile. Not from that practice, but just sitting a lot and, working a lot. But so I was doing, maybe I did no more than like 3 to 5 like poses and breathing with it. And I'm not that flexi yogi that I used to be, so I can't move fast anymore for some reason. So I kind of feel like a newbie, but it actually has brought me back deeper into my body because I can't move like Gumby anymore, and I used to be a gymnast, so I could do all the things without doing all the things, that I needed to do. So it's been really interesting. I'm not sure I'm ready to go back and teach again, but it was like, what are the essentials of this? One is breath, right? Yes, the anatomy and alignment, but less so. I used to be such a stickler about that. And then the actual, vinyasa, I don't know that I really need to get back into the flow of things, but just sitting in there and just noticing all these nuances of my fascia and my body and my breath which was right. That's kind of what the yoga is. I was like, dang, I lost all of that. And so it's kind of a full circle moment. And it just seems like, what you're providing in your studio is doing that. And I know you've been very particular about who, what, where. I mean, and that's kind of curating this idea that you have, this vision that you have, which is hard as an entrepreneur, because you want to be accessible to a lot of people, but it's also hard to keep the vision, without getting distracted. Could you speak more about that?
Huge. Yeah, but I just want to go back to your just recent experience with the yoga. And that's what yoga is. It's personal, and it's taking a moment to personally connect to, what does this feel like? What would happen if I breathe deeper? Where could this, and it's intuitive, where we all did happy baby as a little baby. A lot of the poses, a lot of the things are just innate human expressions. And we can access that if we give ourselves an opportunity. It's just rarely that we go into a happy baby unless we're in a yoga class, because it's really weird. Yeah, if it can help, why not? Yeah. Did you have anything else that you wanted to share on that, or do you want me to answer?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So where the vision really kind of has been bubbling and then shifting and developing started over a decade ago, when I was newly sober and working in the treatment industry, teaching yoga, and recognizing what power these practices have to help people. And I really just dove into the science and the energetics and all the little nuances of what the power of our breath, our body, quietude can have in recovery. And I'm not just talking about drugs and alcohol, which personally has been helpful for me, but all forms of recovery. And so when this opportunity to open a studio came, it was presented in the way of a yoga studio. And I was like, yeah, but I really don't want to open a yoga studio. Yeah, what I want to do is what I've been dreaming about for a long time. And it's having a healing art studio where anybody is welcome, no matter what kind of, physical limitation or perceived conditioning they might have. As long as you're willing, you can do these practices. And again, it comes back to it being personal. Yet in being able to guide that way, it takes a very experienced artist, in my opinion. So that's beyond a yoga teacher with a certification. It's someone that has begun to embody the practices. They have wisdom to then play with the rules and kind of make it into an individual experience. And that's art. We're just using these different mediums, but it's absolutely healing arts. And that's where the artists that are the guides, the leaders, co-create with the students that come in. And each class might be a different kind of thing because I believe like that's what happens in yoga. Every time I step on my mat, it's a totally different experience. Every time I do a writing group, it's a blank page. We put words on it. Every time I do breath work, which is now my new favorite modality to lead, it's like a complete epic journey. And I'm not the one in control of it. That's the coolest part I give it to spirit. I teach from my wheelhouse of expertise. And then the students offer me what they're looking to learn. And together we create something pretty magical. And so that kind of goes into your question of, yes, I've been particular on who is teaching here. And I've learned that I want the teachers that have that confidence, the grace, they embody what they're teaching. And it's been really, really awesome to be in their presence and have fun.
So last weekend, I went to this art class, like a watercolor class. Yeah, it was kind of cool because I don't know. So lately, I was like trying to I remember my 9-year-old self. Like I wasn't. Oh, I thought I was an artist. Every kid's an artist. Everybody's an artist, right? Until somebody's like, what are you doing? And blah, 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 right? So it was interesting because the teacher, I had not picked up a brush since I was 9. I put all of that away. And then, so I was sort of told, like, why are you not studying? Why are you doing that? And so every time I wanted to try to pursue art, it was like my studies got in the way or something more important got in the way or what, So I decided to honor little K and start doing that. So there was this art class. I bought some paints. Like I signed up for these online classes. I bought some paints and brushes and then this art class popped up. So it was about an hour and a half from my house. So I drove in the dark by myself. I'm thinking on the way there, I'm like,
an hour and a half?
I know, like, why are you doing this? It is so dark. I'm gonna hit it here. This is so dumb. Like, it's gonna be so late when you get home. I was like, you're gonna, I was gonna be late to that. Like, I was already on the ramp to the place, and I thought I was about to turn around. But those were all that was like, why are you doing this? But anyway, so I ended up showing up, and the teacher said, if you're here and you're making art, you're an artist. I'm like, I've always wanted to be called an artist, right? And she's like, you're an artist, hands down. And then she said, she said that story, like, when you're 9 and you're painting and somebody was like, ooh, what's that? That's not good. And then you put it away. And then, years later, you sort of pick that up. So that's kind of like 40 plus years for me, not picking that up. And it's so interesting. So since that class, I've been painting a lot, and it's been really interesting because it's sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm not exactly how to use this tool. I'm like, there's a bunch of colors. I would want to know the technical, but the cool thing about it is the teacher was saying, which I think is such a fabulous thing for a teacher, is to be like, you can't make a mistake. There's no such thing as mistakes. This is coming from you, spirit, you're creating whatever on paper, do whatever you want, do whatever you feel, use whatever, and that kind of freedom I had never, I don't feel like I've had the opportunity. It was such a different way of coaching and teaching for me because everything was like, don't make a mistake. And she even had an eraser there, and I was like I'm like, you can use the eraser, I was like, I didn't know you could use erasers, or you can, like, if you could, like, wipe away the paint that you put down. It was so forgiving and so loving, which it made me draw forward more and more curious about it, instead of being fearful of making a mistake. And then I thought, what if medicine were that way? That if I were told, and we were told, you can never make a mistake with a patient. There's no such thing as like hurting a patient or killing a patient, because the soul knows exactly what it's doing, because it'll die. The soul knows already when it incarnates into this earth. So it's impossible for somebody else to make that mistake. Do you know what I mean? If it's really the soul's choice to do that. And it just blew my freaking mind of like how medicine would be different, how health and well-being and wellness would be different, particularly in the Western medical arena. If we could be creative with this, there were an understanding of, like, the dynamic, the co-creation of your life and your wellness. So it sort of reminds me exactly what you're saying, which is such a beautiful, it's rare. It's, I wouldn't say rare, but like, that's to me pretty courageous and cutting edge in the way it should be. You know what I mean? It's not the way it is in the world, but that possibility is actually quite beautiful.
It's rebellious. It's terrifying for those who want to program, condition, keep us away from our soul. So when we can have access to that wisdom within the soul, you're right, you can't make a mistake. And that's what I just admire so much about your practice and the way that you do approach medicine is you're an artist, and it's a gift. It really, really is. So thank you for kind of shifting that lens and being able to approach medicine that way. And, it might have been for you in that, but it's such an awesome, awesome illustration. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for acknowledging that, and you the same. And I think part of it is this belief in the body, that the body can heal, the belief that the body isn't really broken. We just kind of have to figure out, it's almost like a pipe that's got hair in it or something, and just like, what are these things that we need to remove? And since you have been through, and we have been through our journeys, and have used these practices to facilitate the healing, being able to hold a space for somebody else. It's all that, honey, you'll be fine. Like, just trust the brush, trust the paints, trust your breath, just come.
Have fun. Trust the process. It's one of my favorite phrases. Trust the process. It's not about the destination. It's the journey. Like, we're here to create. But decide what you want to create.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what's interesting is that a lot of people have this thing that they want to heal this thing, but then there's so much beyond that. Like, what's the purpose of healing? What's the purpose? Because you're going to heal, like, you'll get past that. And then what? I think for my patients anyway, there's a lot of like, like, which I understand. It's like getting their thyroid levels in gear, or getting their vitamin D at a level. It's like, do you know what I mean? Or their hormones balance. It's like, but and then what? That's great.
See Diana, and when I saw Diana, like, who's this amazing energy worker, like beyond whatever, I started seeing her because of migraine, and I wanted her to help, fix my headache. And years later, she's doing these black pearl chakra cleansing things that are taking me to these different dimensions. And it's so worth it. But we have to go through. And I think that's what having this physical presence here as a studio helps us go through these practices, helps us get there in a way that's not so scary. And then we can have access to that part of ourselves and actually share it with others too. Where I don't think you and I would be doing what we're doing if we weren't in a lot of pain once upon a time and found the ways through it.
For sure. And I also feel like leading and holding the space for that to happen, that safe space, that safe container for that to happen is really important. I talk to Diana weekly, and it just seems like, having that touchstone of that, honey, you're going to be fine, but here's what you need to do. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's so nice to have a team of people who have your wellness and your spirit, trying to get it to move forward, even when you feel stuck. So I feel that that's what your studio, your healing center is really all about. And there doesn't need to be a lot of bells and whistles. There's just, which is awesome because there's a lot, as a studio owner, it's a lot to keep up with. But I think the power of your presence and your experience in different arenas. No, I said it's more than enough. I said for you.
I think because it goes back to safe, and what this space is, it's safe. And for myself, being able to create a safe space within my body to empower these choices to heal. If I don't feel safe, I'm not empowered to make the right decisions that are going to align me into healing. First and foremost, we have to manage that safety. And unfortunately, in our society today, our sense of safety gets rocked. We don't even know it. But have you heard that statistic? Like 80 something % of adults can say they don't feel safe. I mean, a lot. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, that's really, really tragic that we're walking around feeling unsafe. Then how are we going to be able to create?
You can't, right? Because on the chakra system, and that's the problem. It's just like people build their creativity, their esteem, their love, their connections, their into all of that, all the upper chakras, and then they have a really shaky foundation, which you have to feel safe, is what you're saying. And what we're both talking about is not just physical safety, but emotional safety, psychological safety, financial safety, emotional safety. And there's distinctions in that because you can't just like clump them together, right? And it's always important to make those certain distinctions because you can feel physically safe, but not emotionally safe, or spiritually safe. You're not safe. Then safe is safe. So I guess the question is, too, as an adult, is like, how do I create that safety? You can't always rely on the other people to do it for you. But I think what you're saying is holding boundaries, holding steady, being able to being able to create a safe space for others reflects in you being able to know how to create safety in yourself, for yourself.
Absolutely. And I think what's fundamental with that is not lying to ourselves. Huge for me. I'm really good at justifying and being able to use that neocortex overrides that I'm okay, everything's fine. And sometimes we need to take a moment to just look at what's the reality here and get the lies out of the space. And that's addiction. And we all deal with it in different forms. Where are we distracting ourselves because we might not feel safe? And how can I create that stability from within? And then we can move on from there. But I think that's what's so fundamental in the practices of yoga and writing and breath work is it starts with this level of safety. And then you can go into the play stuff. But it's really where I can offer that to other people is being honest with myself so that other people can feel completely seen and heard. They can be honest with me. There's no judgment. And that could be in physical words, but it's also in just a manner.
Absolutely. So that was like back to the practice that I had just rediscovered. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to release this. You know, literally being a teacher for that long, it was about moving and like getting a sweat and like doing the back and all handstands and all of that, when it was like, no, there's so much in my body that I need to release right now, and I need a minute, and I need my breath to support me. Do you know what I mean? And so it's just like, it's such a basic relationship to the movement practice, whatever it is, which looks like yoga, but yeah. We do just yoga because all the distractions, the heat, the music, the goats, that like I don't understand. It's taking us out of our body instead of like that. And when you have pain in your body, yeah, it's like, what is this? Why is this? Where is this coming from? What is this teaching me? You know what I mean? You need a freaking minute. How do you move through 54 poses in like 30 minutes? I don't really get that. Anyway,
I love it, Kay. And it's all about staying in the body, disassociating all day long. And it becomes a habit so that we're no longer present. And that's why I wanted to start with just a few full breaths so that I can bring myself into my body, saying hello to the energy body, saying hello to the physical body, validating those thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, and recognizing that I'm right here, right now, having a conversation with you, like not thinking about 1,000 other things at the same time, which takes practice. It really takes practice. And that's why we create these little activities, healthy habits to practice what it's like to be present. And that's how we get access to our soul, where we're not going to be steered off course. We're not going to take too much medicine of the breath. We're not going to like hurt ourselves in asana because we're actually tuned in. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, and that's the fun with the writing groups is we share, and there's a level of camaraderie that bubbles up because no one thinks what they wrote makes sense. And then when people echo back something that made so much sense to them personally, and they really liked that word choice or that description, it helps to just kind of settle that into.
I love that too, because again, back to the art teacher, if you finish, go around and look at other people's art and you're not saying anything, there's no critiques in here. She says when she kids, like, don't say, ooh, yours is ugly, of course, but it's like, I like how you did whatever. And that reinforcement is really important. And, you know, when people say you don't need external validation, it's not even that, it's just an affirmation. So it was really cute because, you know, I made I was painting these little Christmas cards with this newfound paints that I had and these gift tags, and somebody was like, where did you buy these? These are so delicate. Like, I made them. And she was like, really? I'm like, would you like some? So I spent yesterday like my first free commissioned project and giving her 24 gift tags. I like that is so, but it's so validating, you know what I mean? Like, of course, all about, yeah.
And so you follow that. And our spirits, they love that. They reward you for that. And also, scientifically, you build neural pathways. So it's not about the external validation as much as receiving that positive reinforcement to keep building the neural pathways, to keep firing up those reward centers that, yeah, I'm going to keep doing.
Yeah. So it's fun and it's just a sweet, but I do think all those pieces are important. You know what I mean? You have a safe space, you have a teacher that's positive, you have the technical aspects of how to do asana and how to write, like guidelines.
Absolutely. Solid framework of education and experience.
Floundering around. And so I think all of it together, which is such a beautiful both and such a lovely dance, lovely way to put it together. So nice work.
Well, where I also just think it's such a fun way to bring people in that might not ordinarily look at going to a yoga studio. And yet they ride horses every day and they hear about this class, equine conditioning. So they come in and stretch their quads and have a better ride the next day. And then they come back again for the next week. And then they try a restorative, they try a breath work. They maybe send their sister to the writing class. It's all, in my opinion, the same way that we can kind of touch base with that personal aspect of soul. And that's the other thing too, is having it be fun and bubbling up as a like-minded community. But also, like, I worked in the treatment industry for a long time where people were forced to do these things. Okay. I mean, yes, there's always choice and they're not locked in, but they have a schedule, and on that schedule at 11 o'clock is yoga. At 1 o'clock is writing. And so they're showing up no matter what walk of life they're in to do this practice. Why would that be part of a therapeutic model? And then once they get a little taste of it and they notice that this actually feels good and can work, they can keep doing it. And so where it complements is it's part of a therapeutic model. Like your program, which I'm so excited to dive into. I actually want to do it in January. I haven't told you that yet, but
Yeah. Awesome.
so it complements, like, where if you're going into those whole body health and you're recommending to your patients yoga, breath work, things to connect with your soul, the way that we can do that. And there's so often that people are in an intense program and they're not complementing it with safe and effective somatic practices. And it stays up here in their head and it doesn't integrate into the body. And so that's where I want to be able to work with, different programs, be it either medical doctors or treatment centers or plant medicine, that this is an integration. And it's not a one size fits all thing. That's why we have a schedule. That's why we have different teachers. That's why we have different things that people can try and see, this one works for me. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that.
For us, we're collaborating with you and your studio here at the Soul of Medicine, your online classes, right? So our peeps, you have an opportunity, or anybody for that matter, have an opportunity to check in and experience your teaching and your studio and your light, which is so beautiful. I'm so glad you have this model set up like this to have in-persons and online, right? And we're coming out to see you in January, and there's some other people from our area coming to see you as well. So anybody who's looking to go visit this studio,
it's amazing. I can't wait for you to come, Kay. I'm vying for you to move out here. I think once you get a little taste of it, but you're going to have the best time ever. And we're doing with you the art of wintering, which I'm excited about, and have you and Rob really go into your areas of expertise in aging and how you do so with vitality and longevity. And even that, I love being able to have you in part of the programming where it's the artist. You're another artist, and you happen to have a medical license and a really a lot of amazing experience that you can offer embodied knowledge and wisdom to the people here that also, you know, it's not an afternoon of going to listen to a lecture by a doctor in a white coat. Like we're coming to have a little fireside chat on couches after yoga.
They're medical arts too. That's what I was thinking. And more when I'm hanging out with artists or people who there was a forest bathing therapist that came to our area and she led us. I'm like, what we got out of that one walk meditating in nature. It wasn't even hiking. It was like observing and being present did so many, and then being amongst the trees with all of the beautiful healing chemicals. It's like, this is so healing. I don't even know if it's equivalent to medications or supplements or therapy. It was just so efficient and so natural.
It's nature. Nature is a huge part of my practice. And when we can take time to go into nature, get in the rhythms, get sunlight on our eyeballs, feel the wind, appreciate the seasons, it doesn't take that long, but it brings us back into our natural rhythms. And there's so many studies on it now of the forest bathing, the earthing, the ways that we can connect as humans because we live in concrete jungles and we forgot how. And it's just these little reminders to bring us back. We have access to it. And I think that's the thing that I'm so passionate about is letting people know you have access to this. Nature, breath, movement, art. You can do these things. And if you have the ability to structure a day.
So beautiful. I'm really excited for you. I mean, because I think although it's amazing, I think this is just the beginning with the expansion and what you'll be creating in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really where I'm excited about having it be something that I can grow with and with trainings and intensives and bringing in different healing modalities, different artists, different things that are in that same mindset of how do we go in? How do we go back to the genesis of why am I here? What is a soul? We all have different answers to those questions. Let's just start playing and asking. Get curious.
As a teacher, to get more embodied in yourself, get downloaded with all these really great things, you know what I mean? Because it's hard to do it when you're on the rat race, when you're busy and trying to.
And just in these last couple weeks, I've been very committed to doing my breath work, my writing, my real fundamental survival things of what I need to do to be a functional human. And it brought me back to my knees of when I was in early recovery and a tremendous amount of pain, recognizing that I could no longer live that way. And how I could put the pieces back together where I had a lot of help. I had a team of people that helped me kind of introduce what could work where. And in the last couple of weeks, I had to go back to them. And thank God I did remember of, okay, when you're confused and not knowing what's going on, we got to start to listen. And how do we do that? Yeah, remember when you used to actually do yoga? Remember that journal that you haven't opened? You teach breath work. Maybe you need to do a breath work session on your own. Game changing, okay? I mean, in 1 week, I was like, oh, this stuff works. And it's like, we forget. And nobody was holding my hand, telling me I needed to do this. And I think that's the key where my soul found it when I needed it. And I think I needed to go through a lot of very difficult emotions to get there as part.
Yeah. And the point is that too, it's like you're at a different place. You have a team of people around you. You know how to keep yourself safe, to remember, including breath. Sometimes like we forget our breath. It's like, oh yeah, yeah. We're going to need to breathe. and I know how to breathe. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about collaborating with you, coming to visit you and seeing what you've created and supporting, your creativity and meet your team of artists. So excited about that. I'm really, really proud of you too. And it's nice, right? When you have a dream and then it's manifested. It's like crazy.
It's really my happy place right now. And I never, ever would have imagined it would be my life. And that's the calling. And that's arts. Thank you. Well, thank you for being part of the journey and part of the co-creation. You're absolutely such a huge support in my life in so many ways. And it just means a lot to me to have you as a friend and a mentor and a guide. And yeah, I'm excited to play with you.
All right. So how can we find out more about your creation?
Yeah, so please visit the website or follow us on Instagram, HAUS, HAUS, Healing Arts Studio. And that's .com or just at Instagram. We offer one online class a day. And the cool thing with having an online program as well as an in-person is you're actually getting a little peek into a vibrant, healthy community. It's not just being projected from someone's living room. It's actually a studio, a healing arts studio. Energetically, when you show up to that, you show up in a way that might be different. Energetically, the teacher, art that is being transmitted through the screen is going to be different when it's in a space that's designed to do that by someone who is trauma informed. They have enough of the experience that they will not hurt you. And all you have to do is pretty much click. And in an hour, you receive a lot of benefits. It's just getting in the habit of doing it. And that's something that I'm working with some treatment centers on creating some accountability buddies and different reward systems so that people are actually rewarded for coming to class and that their practitioner or their sponsor or someone knows that, yes, they attended that day. And whether they did all the poses or wrote some Pulitzer Prize-winning novel in that hour is irrelevant. They showed up. That's what matters.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast, where science meets soul for whole health healing. Are you ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and soul purpose? Then feel free to head to our website at kcorpusmd.com and schedule an appointment for your root cause review.